Today we will visit the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, my hometown, but also the hometown of Rembrandt. And this is one of the Rembrandt rooms in the Rijksmuseum, with the famous painting The Staalmeesters. If I translate that, it will be the Steel Masters, but makes no sense. It has nothing to do with steel, but I will explain that later. This is what we were looking for, a self-portrait of Rembrandt van Rijn. Ladies and gentlemen, the master of all painters, Mr. Rembrandt van Rijn.
A good day to you, fellow painters. My name is Rembrandt van Rijn, speaking to you from the year 1640 from Amsterdam. I spoke to the young master Michael and gave him the idea to make a portrait of me. That is something else after all these boring boats, seas and buildings. So let's see if he can do that.
Well, we always can try. Let's go for it and create a masterpiece. I had a lot of requests painting an old master, and what might be a better choice than to make a portrait of the great master Rembrandt himself. Rembrandt made more than 40 self-portraits in oil in all kinds of special outfits. First we have to set up the drawing in pencil, and I do that pretty loosely. Then, to cover all the graphite, I do the sketch in English red and a little bit of titanium white. We're not gonna make a copy, that would take 3 or 4 days and we wouldn't even come close. Some parts were hard to see on the photo, so we will make our own impression of this portrait, but with Rembrandt's techniques. Rembrandt's palette was small. On the average he used only 8 colors, but his way of painting was for those days spectacular. So let's dive into this little adventure and see how far we can come. English red with titanium white is always a good coverage for the graphite. Graphite is greasy, and above all, the drawing of the graphite will come through the layers, so your drawing will be visible for a long time. And a good basic drawing is really important for a good painting. Never think, oh, it will come in the painting. No, it won't. If you don't have a good basic drawing, it will go from bad till worse. Believe me, I've been there. First, we can start with the background. We can use our own mix with ultramarine blue and burnt umber, almost black, and then make a gradient with yellow ochre, alizarin crimson and a touch of burnt sienna and grey. In the meantime, I would tell you what Rembrandt used for black. If you just had dinner, don't listen to this, it's gonna be disgusting. He took bones of probably dead animals or people, roasted them above a soft fire, scraped off soot, added oils, and this was his black. Sometimes he used the bones of mummies, a bit freaky. And we know that there was a lot of kind of blacks like lamp soot, carbon black, graphite black, mummy black, even ivory black made of burnt roasted ivory. Can you imagine that in these days? No, not anymore. Yes, making paint was a real science, which you could learn as a student of a famous master, like Rembrandt was a student of Peter Lastman. Good, we have done the background. Now it might be superstition and totally wrong, but I like to start with the eyes. If the eyes are good, you won already 80% of the portrait. Eyes are the windows to the soul. The eye white of Rembrandt is of course not white. We can mix some grey with skin color, which was alizarin, crimson and ochre, and keep it dark. Rembrandt was a tortured man who suffered at the end of his life, and we can see this at the eyes and face. It's all dark and hanging down. Now, Rembrandt was a specialist in shadows and drama, which his clients not always appreciated. People in those days liked fashion, liked clear colors, just bright pictures without any shadows. Rembrandt, however, against all odds, used the clair-obscur technique, which means almost no middle tones, just go from dark to light, which is spectacular, but it can be shocking, certainly in his time. Now let's move on with the eyes. I admit he looks a little bit like Zorro, but that will become better, no worries. First we will set up all the dark lines and then fill it in with dark yellow ochre tones, and sometimes we can add a bit of burnt sienna too. This is the point that students and painters get desperate or frustrated. The colors don't seem to fit and it looks like the model has a terrible disease. But come on, Canadians, you were brave enough to liberate Holland, thank you for that. And we are certainly not afraid for a piece of canvas. Most important is that we follow the wrinkles. Every wrinkle tells a story, and certainly in the head of Rembrandt. For the dark lines, we can add raw umber, a very nice dark transparent color. With a cool little light on the edge of the pupil, Rembrandt is starting to look at us. And with a cool light, I mean titanium white with a touch of phthalo blue. It's hard to say where the light comes from, probably from the left. Later in the show, we will visit Rembrandt's workspace and we will see that the light is coming from above for the most of it. Those windows were really very high, so it's a so-called spread light, but most of it comes from the left. Now let's move forward with the skin. It looks a bit strange, that color of the skin and that white underground of the canvas. Probably Rembrandt started with an underlayer. And if this was not a television show, I would make a complete grey underpainting, but that would need another TV show and too much of your patience. Maybe in future I will set up a course painting old masters. Yeah, that would be fun. It's for us to guess which pigments Rembrandt used for this painting. He loved earth tones like yellow ochre and umbers. These were not so very expensive. Blue pigments like lapis lazuli from Afghanistan were more expensive than gold. And the ochre tones, however, became a bit yellow through the years, as we can see in this painting. Certainly at the start, with a white canvas, it looks all very yellow, but we can change that a bit later on. If we study Rembrandt's face, it doesn't look very healthy. Pale and puffy, the sunlight probably never came to the slums in Amsterdam, but there was another reason too. In Rembrandt's period of time, the water was bad in Amsterdam. The canals were open sores, stinking and dirty, polluting the groundwater. Therefore, average people drank beer and wine. Fruits and vegetables were available, but only for the rich. The commoners eat too much pig meat, so the skins were not very healthy. You can see this on several paintings. Also, a Rembrandt skin is not very well. There are pins everywhere and it doesn't look very clean. But okay, we're gonna make the best of it. Let's make the eyebrows a bit stronger, that fits to his character. His mouth and eyes shows a strong personality. This was not a guy to fool around with, and we have to show this in the expressions. And after modeling the nose and cheeks and eyes, we can paint a typical artistic moustache and beard. It's not very visible, but we have to start with raw umber and then we get the idea which way it will go. It looks a bit like the moustache of Salvador Dali, but probably he stole the idea from Rembrandt. It's artistic anyway. Like I said, Rembrandt had a strong mouth with pronounced lips, and don't make the mistake to make the lips red. Some raw umber with yellow ochre will do. Right under his lip is a piece of hair also. From here we have to guess how it's built up. It's hard to see. First we fill it with a skin color and then we have to model the dark chin tones. I might say this was the most difficult part of the face. On the side of the chin we can see some pieces of hair too, and I don't know if it's a part of the moustache. Probably he didn't shave for a couple of days. Now first I want to show you the house of Rembrandt. The Rembrandt house in the Jodebreestraat in the center of Amsterdam used to be the house of Rembrandt from 1639 till 1658. Let's take a look inside. This period was the best in Rembrandt's life. He did lots of assignments and it was all created in this studio, on the same easel that is, and look at the light what is coming through the high windows. He used his wife Saskia van Uilenburg often as a model, like in this painting, The Returning of the Lost Son. Saskia passed away. Rembrandt had an affair with the nanny of his son Titus, Geertje Dirks. This lasted till 1649 when he met Henrike Stoffels, his new wife. However, being kicked out of the house, Geertje was not amused and she started a kind of trial which she won, and Rembrandt had to pay 200 florins per year as a kind of alimony. But Rembrandt took revenge and somehow he was able to get her in prison for more than 5 years. Together with his beloved son Titus, Henrike took over the business and started a gallery selling the paintings to restore Rembrandt's financial troubles. But as the plague raged over Europe for more than 3 years, Henrike and Titus passed away, and Rembrandt was alone again. He has quite a dramatic life, but we can still look around in his old studio where brushes and palette are lying there as the master could return any moment. Alone? Well, not quite. I discovered later that Rembrandt and Henrike had a daughter, Cornelia van Rijn. She was born in 1634, passed away in 1684, only 30 years old. But we know almost nothing about her history. Rembrandt never painted her. It will be always a secret. Enough gossip from the 1600s and back to the future. We will keep on modeling the head, and this time we shake the brush over his forehead. And yes, if you see little glitches like this, that means we cut out some scenes to save time. I spent more than 20 hours to this painting, discovering every time something new. And the more you get into these wonderful techniques, the more curious you will become. Rembrandt was an inventor. We can paint with a dark ochre tone the shadow of his head, which is still not visible. But we better do it now. It's just the ochre tone skin with raw umber. Also the side of his skull needs shadow where the hairlines will start. And yes, I know it looks weird, but it will come all together at the end. Ears are always a drama to paint. I spent tons of hours practicing ears, and Rembrandt's ears are big and ugly. There's even a little ear jewel in his ear, but you hardly can see it. It might be a pimp as well. Rembrandt never followed fashion. He was always inventing and renewing himself. Another master painter like Vincent van Gogh was a renewer too. He went off the regular path and invented a complete new method of painting. Now, people in that time slot didn't understand him sometimes, mostly not. And as a painter, then you get some financial troubles. It is known that Vincent van Gogh was inspired by Rembrandt. Now I wonder what would happen if those two, Van Gogh and Rembrandt, could have a conversation with each other. So take a break and listen to this.
Allô les copains, comment allez-vous, Michael et Rembrandt, mon ami?
Master van Gogh, what an honor to have you here in our studio.
Oh, Van Gogh, you here? Yes, you came 200 years after me. A bit too late, but okay, you are here.
Yes, Monsieur Rembrandt, still the old grumpy guy. I was late, and if I may say so, Master Michael, this portrait needs some more couleur.
Couleur, what couleur? I like dark shadows, deep and strong. Yeah, Van Gogh, I've seen you work. You probably always drink too much wine, you fake painter.
Fake painter, moi? Mais, Monsieur Rembrandt, quelle horreur affreuse! Ah, mon récapteur, my poor heart. It's too much excitement. Alors, Rembrandt, I want satisfaction. Votre excuse, or choose your weapon.
Oh, give me a break. The idiot wants him to well for crying out loud. We are both already dead for hundreds of years, you moron.
Monsieur Rembrandt, you are certainly not a gentleman. Affreuse.
Gentlemen, please, no quarrel in my studio. You're both excellent painters with high qualities and your own public. So no worries, no jealousy. And I mean it, it's finished now. Otherwise, I take a towel with solvent and I wipe you out, the both of you. So, by now, there's peace.
Yeah, you're probably right. Okay, Van Gogh. No hard feelings. Let the young master Michael finish my portrait. And I know a jolly good pub with excellent wine and beer.
Oh là là, Monsieur Rembrandt, now you're talking. Allez, let's have a party.
Now that was too much fun, wasn't it? The light-hearted, friendly nature southern spirit of Vincent in opposite of the rude, rough-talking Amsterdam character of Rembrandt. Believe me, I come from Amsterdam and I can talk like that too. The slums have their own rough backdrop dialect. But the heart of the Mokumers, and that is the nickname of an Amsterdam inhabitant, is good and always merry. No worries, we won't kill you. Let's put up some hairs. We already did the moustache and a small beard. The hairs on the side are grayish, but there's also yellow ochre tone in that hair, although I see that. Try to go along with the curves and a small round brush will do the work for you. It's again that same technique of softly going in the brushstroke and softly going out. And that will bring that natural hair look. The blender brush will soften it up, and after that we have to go in again with more hairs. Yes, I know, it's a monk work, as we say in Holland, but we have to do it. And Rembrandt, in all honesty, was not really a blender guy. He put it up almost in pasto with rough brushstrokes. So this technique is not really my style, but for this portrait we try his technique as much as possible, like quick, rough brushstrokes and not too much blending. Let's see if we can give the man some decent clothes. We will start with dark grey and burnt sienna to get an impression of leather. Although I think the jacket was leather. In those days, leather was cheap material and easy to get, and for the rest, like I told you, it's a wild guess. The Dutch VOC brought in linen, wool, satin, and that was exactly what the guys of the Steelmaster did. Remember, which I showed you at the start of the episode? They showed styles or examples of clothes to the clients, and then you could order a ship full if you wanted. With rough brushstrokes, we try to follow the curves of the shoulder and arms. And at the left side is a kind of cloth, and I couldn't find out what it was. Now let's go for a fur blanket. I told you we are not make a copy, but we make our own creation in the style of Rembrandt. With rough, fast brushstrokes, we follow the direction of the shoulder. And this is how Rembrandt painted, certainly in the last part of his life. Let's take a little break. I want to show you something. If you ever need help with mixing, you are always welcome for a chat in our beautiful lesson center in Parksville. As you know by now, I donate all my paintings made for these shows to the North Island Wildlife Recovery Center in Coombs, a fantastic place where wounded and abandoned wildlife gets a second chance. And you will meet Knut and his little friend Ray playing in their private paradise. And of course, you will see all the other animals and they will be so happy to see you. Thank you for your support. It's also a great place for sketching animals. Sketching is the most important training you can do. It will develop your motor skills and hand-eye coordination. With a 1-inch brush, we can paint the impression of fur. We can use grey, burnt sienna and ochre tones, just a bit of everything. Like I said, he became more loosely in his brushstrokes. And although the fashion in paintings became more blended and romantic, and we call this the French style, Rembrandt went right the opposite way and became more rough in his brushstrokes. As I lived close at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, I was lucky enough to study all those famous masters. And when I saw the first time a painting of Rembrandt, I was 10 years old, I saw only big blobs of paint. And then a teacher said to me, "You have to step back, and now you can see what's going on in this painting." I found that fascinating and so mysterious, and from that moment I knew it. I wanted to become a painter. Talking about big blobs of paint, the hands in this painting were indeed a few big blobs, and I finally discovered how he painted them. The thumb leans over the left hand and the fingers go into the hand. It makes sense, but very hard to paint. Now let's finish the jacket. And like I said, this way of painting is so very different, almost the opposite as Rembrandt started as a student with his teacher Peter Lastman. Peter Lastman became famous with his religious paintings using clear colors, very precise drawings and not too much shadow. I don't know if you have noticed, but because of the brown pigments, the color of his face changed dramatically. First he looked like Genghis Khan, but because of the brown colors, Rembrandt's face became more natural. And this was one of the secrets of Master Rembrandt. He knew, as no other painter, how colors influencing each other. And yes, we did the same trick. Okay, I admit it was a lucky strike or stroke, but if we start painting Rembrandts, you will discover one secret technique after another. In all honesty, I could work another 5 weeks on this portrait. During this little adventure, I discovered how brilliant this rough-natured, naughty, bad-mannered Dutch painter actually was. The playing with lights, dark, and experiences with all kinds of pigments made him the most unique master of all times. And like he always said to his students, be humble and learn. Master Rembrandt, I think we finished the painting and I hope you like it.
Yeah, you did a great job, Master Michael. Hey, may I say goodbye to the viewers?
Well, of course. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for watching. Check out the website. Have fun and keep on painting.
Thank you.